Welcome back to the Boot Tragedies. Something we haven't covered yet was special teams for the Saints. Now, I think both special teams players and Blake Gillikin and Will Lutz are coming off a down year for the Saints. So, with that being said, the Saints brought in a punter. They also brought in two kickers. Only one kicker that I think is going to be, part of the conversation. But they brought in two guys, to kick the ball. Also brought in one punter. Don't know if both of these guys, the kickers at least, will make it through the entire training camp. I'm sure two will, just because they always, have at least two punters, two kickers to kind of compete, kind of battle, just kind of have a backup anyway. But let's get into it, man. The first kicker we have is Alex Quevedo, might be pronouncing his name wrong, but he went to the University of Central Oklahoma. Was a solid kicker for them. Hit 28 of 39 field goals, made 56 consecutive PATs. It's the old PAT line in college still, but had 218 career points. Was a solid kicker in college. Played at a smaller school, so the Saints just brought him in. He's the one that I don't know if he'll make it through the entire training camp, entire mini camp, but he is a kicker that the Saints brought in to put some pressure on Will Lutz. Then next up, I think the guy that they really brought in to put some pressure on Will Lutz would be Blake Grupe. Had a 5-year career in the NCAA, played 4 years at Arkansas State, then transferred over to Notre Dame his super senior year. 211 out of 217 on PATs in college. Like I said, it's the old, PAT mark, so it is a little closer. But his field goals was a little inconsistent, but that's kind of how Will Lutz was coming out of college as well, with 14 for 21 at Arkansas State, 19 for 22, which is pretty good, 86%, 11 for 18 at Arkansas State after that, 20 for 25, then at Notre Dame, 14 of 19. So a little inconsistent, a career 75% field goal rate in college, but he has a really, really big leg. A couple technique things can, fix that up, get him over 80%, get him, into a good spot. So I do think Will Lutz is going to have some competition on his hands and may the best man win. Now, obviously, Will Lutz has been excellent for the Saints since he's been here, honestly, instead of last year. Last year was a down year. He's been really, really good for the Saints his first 5 or 6 years with the club, but, missed that entire season, came back, and it just wasn't himself. No matter how you slice it, just wasn't himself. If you just look at his career kicks and career makes for the Saints, it just wasn't himself. His first year, 28 for 34, 82%. Second year was 86%. The next year after that was 28 for 30, 93%. 32 for 36, 88%. And then in 2020, 23 for 28, 82%. And that's the, year he was injured. After that, didn't play. And then this past season was only 23 for 31, 74%. So this is his first time being under 80% in his career. Also the first time he also made all of his extra points, which is hilarious. He made all his extra points last year. So with 100% on that front. But 74%. You missed 8 kicks. That's a lot of kicks. That's a lot of points left on the board. He's a former Pro Bowler, so obviously that talent's there. He's only 28. It's not like he lost it. He can still kick them long. He had his career long of a 60-yard field goal, and almost had like a 61 or 62 against the Vikings, I believe. It just, hit the crossbar. So obviously the talent's still there. I think he's going to have a bounce back year. I don't think he's going to lose his job, but the Saints are putting pressure on him. They do want him to compete. They do want him to be better, and that's all you can ask for. You can't be mad at Dennis Allen. You can't be mad at Mickey Loomis for bringing in another guy. Like I always say, if you think you can upgrade, try to upgrade. Do I think any of these kickers will, knock Will Lutz off this team, away from the Saints? I don't think so. I think Will Lutz is still a very good kicker. He's just coming off an injury. You missed a year of football, man. That's going to be tough to come back from. I do think he'll come back from it. He did take a pay cut as well. He took a $1.5 million pay cut. He was set to make $3.7 million, I believe. Now he's set to make $2.2 million in 2023 with a $500K signing bonus that he signed. But he does have a chance to earn, half of that $1.5 million pay cut back. He has $750K in incentives. I'm sure that's probably, a makes incentive, a percentage incentive and things like that. So he may get some of that money back. But he took a pay cut. So that's basically Will Lutz saying, you know what? I know I'm probably not worth that 3.7 million. I don't want to get cut, and lose most of this money. So I'll take a pay cut. I'll come back for 2.2 million. Obviously I didn't have a good year. Then I'll try to earn some of that money back in the sentence. And hey, he did it. Most players wouldn't do it. Most players got pride and ego and would say, you know what? I'm not doing it. So he took a pay cut, rightfully so in my opinion. I think the same thing Michael Thomas did. And hey, you move on, you move forward. You got a lot of incentives in that deal, and we see what happens. But I do think Will Lutz will have a bounce back year. And now on to Blake Gillikin, another guy who had a super good rookie year. Well, I guess it was his second year, but he really didn't play his first year. So a really, really good first season with the Saints. And then last year, it was a down year. Just like Will Lutz, I think Blake Gillikin, had a down year last year. And because coming into, before the season started, I was like the special team unit was the one unit I wasn't worried about. We had, Will Lutz, who I considered at one point, a top 3 kicker in the NFL. It was Justin Tucker, Harrison Butker, and Will Lutz, in my opinion. And then obviously Will Lutz took a step back. And I think so did Blake Gillikin. He took a step back, and the Saints also brought a punter in to compete with Blake Gillikin. So he's going to have to compete for his job once again. Because if you just look at his first season with the Saints, it was pretty good. Now, the numbers may not tell you, everything, but his average yards per punt, 47.8 to 46.4. His net average from 42 to 41.4. He had a longer 68 this year, longer 63. Had 7 touchbacks this past season, only 4 the year before. Inside the 20 more times, but I remember we could not get the ball inside the 10. He was one of the only punters in the NFL for a minute. We're not getting the ball inside the 10-yard line. He was just having a tough time doing that. But I think he's gonna have a bounce back year as well, man. He just had a sophomore slump. Only 24 years old. He's going to come back. He's going to be better. But the Saints did put some pressure on him and brought in Lewis Hedley, a punter from Miami. Started off his career at the City College of San Francisco. Then went to Miami for 4 years. And he had a pretty good time in Miami. First year in Miami, only averaged 43.9 yards per punt, but had a long of 67. Inside the 20, 21 times. Punted the ball over 50 yards 16 times. Now, if you look at his last years in Miami, he was having a great season. He averaged 47.2, 44.7, and 45.3. Longs of 67, 60, 62, and 61. So obviously has a big leg inside the 20, 14, 19, and 23 times. So, the guy has a big leg, a super big leg. Punt the ball over 50 yards 16 times, 20 times, 11 times, and 10 times each year. Net average of 40.6, 45.1, 43.0, and 42.6. So a guy is really good at punting. He's really good at punting. It's going to put some pressure on Blake Gillikin. He's a little inconsistent. He's kind of a boom or bust guy. He kicks it really, really far. And then sometimes that inconsistency comes. And obviously you don't want that from your punter or your kicker. You want them to be consistent. But that's in college. Maybe he can come back in the NFL and clean some things up and be a consistent, 50-yard punter. That'll be insane. Obviously, he'll probably be on somebody's team, if not the Saints team, if he can do that. But we're a long ways away from that. I do think Blake Gillikin will be in the driver's seat, just for that job. But they are putting pressure on him. I do like that. And it's great to see some battles, man. It's great to see some battles, in training camp. Lou Hedley, is already 28 years old. Doesn't really matter for punter's sake, man. You can play until you're about 35, really to about 40. You see Thomas Morstead still out there kicking it, the GOAT. So, hey, who knows what's going to happen. I do think Will Lutz and Blake Gillikin are going to win their jobs, but they both have competition in camp this year, and I just like it, man. You always love competition. It's only going to make these players better. You need a kicker to get a little pressure on them, man. Just let them know it's not okay to miss 8 kicks in a season. It's not okay to, not put the ball inside the 10-yard line as a punter. You have to do your job when called upon. So I do like that the Saints are putting pressure on both of these guys in the special teams unit. And I like to see what happens. But special team unit will have to pick it up in this 2023 season. Let me know what y'all think in the comments below. Do y'all think both, kicker and punter would make this roster? You think, one or the other? How would the Saints do it? But as always, man, thank y'all for tuning in once again. It's Taboo Tragedies. And I'm out.
Greatest man